Okay, so in the world of big oil, things can get pretty intense. But right now in Nigeria, a fight is brewing that could literally change the country's entire economy. We're talking about a showdown between a massive billionaire and the government's top oil regulator, and it's all about who controls the nation's most precious resource. So, who are the players? Well, on one side, you've got Aliko Dangote. You probably know the name. He's Africa's richest man, an industrial powerhouse, and he just built this absolutely revolutionary new oil refinery. And on the other side, you've got Enjer Farouk Ahmed, the guy in charge of Nigeria's top oil regulatory agency. Now, let me be clear. This is not just some business squabble. No. This is a clash of titans, a battle over power, personality, and some seriously high-stakes policy. And really, when you get right down to it, it is, as our sources put it, a battle over economic sabotage, personal integrity, and the future of Nigeria's energy. That pretty much sums it up, doesn't it? All right, so how on earth did we get to this point? Well, it all kicked off with the launch of something that was supposed to be a total game changer for Nigeria. The brand new, absolutely massive 650,000 barrels per day Dangote refinery. I mean, this thing was meant to be a symbol of Nigeria finally becoming self-sufficient. But instead of celebration, it lit the fuse for a national firestorm. Now, at the center of this whole mess is one key piece of legislation: the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021. You can think of this as the rulebook for the entire fight. And, this law puts the regulator, Ahmed, in a really tricky position. On one hand, he's supposed to support local production, guys like Dangote. But on the other hand, he also has to make sure the market stays competitive and that no single company gets to become an all-powerful monopoly. That's a tough balancing act. Okay, so let's break this down. First, let's look at the case against the regulator. This is Aliko Dangote's side of the story, and believe me, the allegations are explosive. So the biggest accusation, the real bombshell, is economic sabotage. Dangote is basically saying the regulator is deliberately trying to sink his refinery. How? By handing out way too many licenses to import fuel. He's arguing this floods the market, which hurts his new refinery, and, get this, helps the old-school fuel import cartels, these powerful groups that have made a fortune for years to keep their grip on the market. The bottom line, according to Dangote, is that this is causing a massive loss of revenue for the entire country. And we're not talking about a small number here. Dangote alleges that licenses for an unbelievable 7.5 billion liters of fuel were approved for just 1 quarter. His point is, with my new refinery up and running, why on earth would you need to import that much? To him, this is proof positive that something fishy is going on. It's the smoking gun of the alleged sabotage. But here's where things really took a turn. This fight didn't just stay in the boardroom or in policy debates. Oh no, it got personal. Dangote's company went ahead and filed a formal petition with Nigeria's anti-corruption agency, the ICPC. So this just jumped from a business disagreement right into a full-blown criminal accusation. And that petition makes a very, very specific and damaging claim that the regulator, Engineer Ahmed, somehow paid over $7 million for his kids' school fees in Switzerland. The accusation is pretty clear. There's just no way a public servant could afford that on their official salary. Okay, so that's one side of the story. But as we all know, every story has two sides. So now, let's flip the script and dive into the regulator's defense. Let's hear what Engineer Farouk Ahmed has to say in his official rebuttal. All right, so in a formal response, Ahmed lays out his side of the financial story. He breaks down exactly how his children's education was funded. He says that the vast majority of it, we're talking a big chunk, was covered by merit-based scholarships. The rest, he says, came from a family education trust fund that they set up way back in 2018, plus his own personal savings. And he's not just saying this, he has openly invited the anti-corruption agencies to come in and audit all his financial declarations. Now, what about the charge that he's sabotaging the refinery? Well, Ahmed's defense points right back to the law we talked about earlier. He argues that Section 7 of the Petroleum Industry Act basically orders his agency to prevent monopolies. His stance is that putting all of Nigeria's eggs in one basket, even a really big, impressive basket like the Dangote refinery, would be a huge risk to the country's energy security. He's saying, I'm not sabotaging him, I'm doing my job. So when you peel back all the layers, the personal attacks, the specific numbers, what are we really looking at here? At its core, this is a fundamental disagreement about economics. Is this about protectionism, shielding a new national champion to help it grow? Or is it about creating a truly competitive free market for everyone? And these two worldviews, they're just polar opposites. From Dangote's perspective, issuing any import licenses is an act of sabotage. The goal for him should be 100% national self-sufficiency, period. But for Ahmed, those exact same licenses are the key to ensuring healthy competition. His number one goal is to stop a private monopoly before it can even start. And what's so fascinating is that both of them can actually point to the very same law to justify their position. So you might be thinking, okay, this is a big fight between two very powerful men. But why should the rest of us care? What is actually at stake for the entire nation of Nigeria here? Well, the fallout from this could be absolutely massive. First, a public, messy fight like this could seriously scare off foreign investors. It just chills the whole investment climate. Second, it could force the government to go back to the drawing board and completely rethink its core energy policy. And third, it puts the country's most important national institutions right under the microscope. And that last point is so critical. The way the anti-graft agencies like the ICPC handle this case is being watched by everyone. It's really seen as a litmus test for their independence. I mean, can they conduct a fair and impartial investigation when two of the most powerful figures in the entire country are at the center of it? That's the big question. So just to quickly run through the timeline again to see how we got here. The new Petroleum Act gets passed back in 2021. Then in 2023, the Dangote refinery is up and running. Tensions really start to heat up through 2024, and it all comes to a head in late 2025 when that formal corruption petition is filed. At the end of the day, this entire massive conflict really just boils down to one fundamental question for a nation at a crossroads. When your biggest, most important industry is completely reborn, who gets to write the new rules?